the team that truly fooled the whole NFL this offseason, the Indianapolis Colts. Welcome to Crumble Takes, guys. Today we're going to talk about this team that clearly had me fooled and had a lot of people fooled. They were negatives, if you were betting on them, negatives to win the division this year. So let's see what happened and why they didn't even make the playoffs this year. They have a top 10 pick in the draft. Let's dig into this a little bit more and see why the Colts were so bad this year. And please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and tell me, you guys, what did y'all think about the Indianapolis Colts coming into the season, and what should they do to fix this horrendous team? Alright guys, we can be honest, this all started with this man right here, Andrew Luck. He retired after only playing 6 years in the NFL. In those years he was playing, they won 11-5, 11-5, 11-5, 2-5 because he got hurt, 8-7 the next year, and then 10-6. They were actually doing pretty well. He was balling, and then he retired suddenly. Nobody knew. He just decided to retire because he couldn't mentally take the game and getting injured anymore. The Colts had a bad O-line. So quarterbacks since him have been Jacoby Brissett, Brian Hoyer, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and now Matt Ryan. And Nick Foles and Sam Ehlinger this year too has also started. That's how bad this has been since Luck retired. Luck was a baller, man. He went out there and did some unbelievable things. They even tanked for him. He was a true baller. But he retired, and they've kind of had bad luck since then. Well, start of 2020, the Colts needed another quarterback after Phillip Rivers retired, so they went ahead and traded for Carson Wentz from Philadelphia. Now, Carson Wentz stats were, he threw for 3,563 yards, 27 total touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Now, that's when I watched Wentz play last year, in my opinion, he wouldn't play that bad, besides that last game, but I'll get to that soon. Otherwise, in my opinion, he didn't play that bad. They beat some decent teams. They beat the Bills. They almost beat my Ravens. That game was overtime, one of my favorite games ever. They put up 45 on the Jets. They almost beat Tampa. They beat New England. They were doing pretty well, I will not lie. The Colts were looking like a playoff team. Wentz was looking like, hey, maybe this is their guy for now until something else happens. I will not lie. I thought this team was actually going to go to the playoffs and do some stuff. Because I'm like, they got this running back, Jonathan Taylor, too. This defense is playing nice with Taylor, I'll get into later. Their whole team was nice. Wentz wasn't getting sacks 50 times. He wasn't throwing dumb interceptions. He was just playing good football, I should say. Good football enough for them to win games. And it was pretty nice, I'm not going to lie. But the fact is, it started to all go downhill after they need to win to get in. They lost this game to the Raiders. Yes, they lost the game to last year's Raiders. But the fact is, they needed one win to get in at the last game of the season. It was versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'm going to tell you guys, it was ugly. Yeah, guys, it got really, really ugly. Carson Wentz only threw for 185 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Taylor, 15 carries, 77 yards. As you can see, this game got out of hand very, very, very quickly. And this game caused the Colts to not make the playoffs. And the locker room, everyone just gave up on him, which I think they should have kept him another year, because I don't think it was fair, because I think he did play a decent year. But the one game where it mattered the most, yes, he choked. And they didn't make the playoffs, but I think that he should have been there another year and not have this folio they got in here now. Because I'm be honest, I would have took Carson last year and see what he would have did in this offense this year again instead of the folio that's in there right now. But let's get into another reason why the Colts were so great last year. I used the word great because they were good, but they weren't like a contender, I would say, but they were decent enough to make playoffs. This man right here, Jonathan Taylor, last year was a menace on the field. 1,811 yards, 18 total touchdowns. If there was a team who played against him, he ran over it. He did not care this last year. He just ran over anyone. This man in fantasy last year, oh my God, just an amazing guy to draft. He was just anyone who it was, he ran over them. Like 1,811 yards is great for a running back. He was getting conversation even should he be the MVP this last year, because the way that he played was just outstanding. Well, if he would have cracked 2,000 yards and broke that record that Henry set, I think he should have won MVP over who won MVP last year. I don't even remember, but it's okay. I still think Rodgers won MVP last year, but still, he balled out. This man was amazing. He was just a great running back, and things we're looking into going into year 3 with Taylor. The next year, I was like, all right, number 1 overall fantasy pick. But as I say that, we'll get into that a little bit later too. Yeah. But like I said, balled out. The offseason started. Now,
it is happening. Officially a done deal. Sources tell me and Mike Garafolo and Tom Pelissero that Matt Ryan is being traded to the Indianapolis Colts. The deal is done. It is agreed to. It is the 3rd round pick going back to Atlanta in the 2022 draft. So Atlanta now officially moves forward.
When I saw this man got to the Colts, I was like, oh, they're winning the division. I was like, there's no way they lose it. This man, Matt Ryan, he plays still some decent football. Won an MVP. Yeah. So let's get into what happened. So this is what happened with the Colts. First, they start with a tie with Houston. Second, blown out by Jacksonville. Third, they get a super weird 20-17 win versus Kansas City. Now, keep in mind, Jonathan Taylor played a great first game versus Houston. Okay game, 54 yards, isn't that good? And then versus Kansas City, 71 yards. Then played against Tennessee. They took an L there. Taylor only had 42 yards, but he also was hurt. Thursday night football versus Denver. I don't even think I need to talk about how they won this game, and I really don't want to talk about it because we all know how ugly and disturbing that Russell Wilson cannot cook. But this isn't the story. This isn't about the Broncos. That video's getting made later. Went to Jacksonville. They actually got a win. Matt Ryan threw for 389, pretty good. Tennessee, they lost. Washington, they lost. Now, Matt Ryan's stats end up being 3,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. He was also, at the time where he was starting, the most sacked quarterback in the league. That man was always getting hit. That O-line, I will be honest with you guys, that O-line was terrible. That's another reason why JT wasn't able to produce, but we'll get into that a little bit more later. But Matt Ryan was not able to produce in this Colts offense. That's what I'm mostly trying to tell you guys. And they weren't winning games either. So once they got to this game versus the New England Patriots, something that no one expected. Well, I mean, I guess a few people could have expected it, but I certainly wasn't expecting this to happen at all. I was like, what? Well, Matt Ryan and Frank Wright decided to bench Matt Ryan. Yeah, he benched him. Now you'd say to yourself, who's the backup? Oh, they benched him for Sam Ehlinger, guys. It was literally my reaction when he was benched for Sam Ehlinger. Well, that Patriots game, Ehlinger had 103 yards and they lost 26-3, dropping the record down to 3-5-1. It was pretty bad and it was horrific watching. So after that game, the Colts organization decided to do this.
Surprising, his team had only 121 yards in total offense yesterday in a loss to the Patriots. That was the worst performance by a Colts team in 25 years. They were 0 for 14 on third down. But wait, there's more. Jeff Saturday is the new interim head coach. The same Sean O'Hara doppelganger who's in the Colts Ring of Honor, who...
Yeah, Jeff Saturday was hired. I was like, who? And then I found out who Jeff Saturday was, that it was an O-lineman for the Colts, and then I was confused. Well, Taylor came out of the first game going nuts, 147 yards, and they won a game versus the Raiders. I was like, okay, Jeff Saturday might be balling. Hold the phone. And then they were beating the Eagles, but they did end up losing that game 17-16. Keep in mind, they were so close to beating Philly. A game versus Pittsburgh, they could have won 24-17. It was very, very close, but they could have won that one in my opinion too. Dallas, this game versus Dallas was so close. I think they were up at halftime. They ended up losing 54-19 because they were just turning over the ball. And then the legacy game that everybody knows versus Minnesota. Let's get into it, guys. The 33-0 at halftime blown lead versus the Vikings. And this is another reason why I think the Vikings are frauds. You shouldn't be down 33-0 to the Colts. I know they came back, but like still, come on, guys. Yeah, the game ended up going to overtime. The final score was 39-36. Yeah, they came back. The greatest comeback in NFL history, they call it. I don't think there's more to touch up on this game except, yeah, that happened. It was pretty bad. So after this game, well, this happened, which was honestly, in my opinion, surprising, but also not surprising. It really depends who you ask. Matt Ryan was benched for Nick Foles, and Nick Foles played terrible in the games that he played. He did get hurt, and the final game of the season, Sam Ehlinger will start. That's all I'm going to say. Nick Foles, he was horrible. There's nothing else to say besides he was bad, and Ehlinger starting again. I don't think he's going to be much better. And the last reason why I think this Colts team wasn't great, because Jonathan Taylor played mediocre and he was hurt. The number 1 overall pick in fantasy. He ended the season with 861 rush yards and 4 TDs. First game, he looked like, oh, my team looked like I was about to win the league. I bet you both of y'all, a lot of y'all's team was going to win the league. And then he fell off versus Jacksonville. He fell off versus Kansas City. He got hurt versus Tennessee with his ankle. He was out for 2 games. But then, of course, he came back. And then played mediocre again versus Tennessee, mediocre again versus Washington. Vegas, he balled out with Jeff Saturday was there. He played decent against Philly, decent against Pittsburgh. Dallas game, he did mid. And then the Minnesota game, he got hurt, placed on IR, high ankle sprain. We know how that story finishes. Taylor, next year, he'll be back and better, in my opinion. I won't draft him again in fantasy, though. But that's okay. What I believe this Colts team needs to do in the offseason is go get this guy right here, CJ Stroud. I think they currently have the 5th pick in the draft. I'm not quite certain, but I think they have the 5th pick as of right now. They need to go draft CJ Stroud, because I know Bryce Young is probably going to take number 1 overall. They need to go draft CJ, stop this old quarterback crap. Just go draft Stroud. Second, they need a head coach. I don't know who the head coach is. They need a head coach with some experience. So we're done with this head. We don't need Jeff Saturday. People were saying, oh yeah, they're going to bring Jeff Saturday. No, they need to not bring Jeff Saturday back. And they need to draft this guy right here, CJ Stroud. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this video. Like and subscribe, please. And again, like I said, comment. What do you guys think the Indianapolis Colts